The alien empire of Erexia ruled across hundreds of star systems. Its ships were black and silent, its laws absolute. At the center of this vast power sat the Alien Empress. She was known as the Frozen Crown because she never showed fear or love. For thousands of cycles, no one had seen her smile. No one dared speak her true pain. But the truth was known inside the palace walls. Her only daughter was sterile. Alien doctors had said it clearly. The royal bloodline would end with the Empress. There would be no heirs, no grandchildren, no future bound by blood. The Empress accepted this with silence, but not with peace. Every night, she sat alone on her throne, the lights of conquered galaxies glowing behind her. Power meant nothing without family, and family was something she had lost. Years ago, her daughter had vanished. She rejected the royal life and fled into deep space. The Empire declared her lost, maybe dead. The Empress never spoke her name again. On this day, the throne room was quiet. Royal guards stood still like statues. A human diplomatic ship had arrived without warning. Humans were weak compared to the Empire, or so everyone believed. The Empress allowed them to enter, not from kindness, but curiosity. Humans rarely dared approach Phyrexia space. The massive doors opened slowly. A small group of humans walked inside. They looked fragile, small, and unarmed. At their center was a human woman, calm and steady. The Empress felt something strange the moment she saw her. The woman's face triggered a memory the Empress had buried for years. Her breathing slowed, her fingers tightened on the throne. This was impossible. The woman stepped forward and bowed respectfully. She spoke in simple words, translated by alien tech. She said she came in peace. The Empress stared at her eyes. Those eyes were familiar, too familiar. The Empress felt anger rise, then fear. She demanded the woman speak her name. The woman hesitated. Then she said it softly. The name of the lost daughter. The throne room gasped. Royal guards raised their weapons. Scientists whispered in panic. The Empress stood up slowly. Her voice was cold and sharp. She said this was a lie. Her daughter was sterile. Her daughter was lost. Her daughter could not stand before her as a human. The woman did not argue. She only turned slightly to the side. And that was when the sound echoed through the hall. Soft laughter. The sound did not belong in a place of fear. Small footsteps followed, light and curious. 2 human children walked into view. They were not afraid. They looked around with wonder. At the tall guards and glowing walls, the Empress felt her heart stop. Her body froze. The children stood close to the woman. Holding her hands, the Empress whispered without meaning to. That is impossible. Alien scanners activated automatically. Lights moved across the children. Data streams began to form, then suddenly stopped. Scientists stared at their screens, their faces pale with shock. The Empress could not move. Her mind rejected what her eyes were seeing. The woman finally spoke again, her voice steady but emotional. She said these were her children. She said they were born on Earth. The Empress felt something crack inside her, a feeling she had not felt in centuries. Hope mixed with fear, truth mixed with denial. At this moment, dear listener, if you enjoy deep space stories filled with mystery and emotion, please consider subscribing to this channel so you do not miss what happens next. The Empress stepped down from the throne, slowly, carefully. Every step felt heavy. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. She stood before the children, her shadow falling over them. The children looked up at her, unafraid, and smiled. The Empress had conquered worlds, destroyed empires, but nothing had ever prepared her for this moment. Because the impossible was standing right in front of her, and this was only the beginning. The throne room remained silent after the children smiled. No one moved, no one breathed. The alien Empress stood frozen, staring at them. Her mind was fighting itself. Memories rushed back like a storm. She remembered the day her daughter was born. Small, fragile, yet strong in spirit. The only light the Empress ever allowed into her heart. The Empire expected perfection, strength without weakness, logic without emotion. But the daughter was different. She questioned orders. She asked why worlds were conquered, why weaker species suffered. The Empress called it disobedience. Years later, when royal doctors declared the daughter sterile, The Empire saw her as broken. A future without heirs was unacceptable. Whispers filled the palace halls. The daughter heard those whispers, she felt. The cold looks, she felt unwanted in her own home, and one night she made a choice. She left the Empire. No guard stopped her. No alarm sounded. It was as if the universe allowed her to escape. The Empress woke to an empty chamber. Her daughter gone. Only silence remained. Pride stopped her from searching openly. The Empire declared the daughter lost. Some said dead, others said erased by enemies. The Empress never corrected them. Back in the present, the Empress slowly raised her hand. Royal guards lowered their weapons, but stayed alert. Her voice came out controlled, but shaking beneath. She demanded the woman explain everything. The woman nodded. She did not look afraid, only tired, as if she had carried this truth for years. She said she survived in deep space, drifting between systems, until a human rescue ship found her. They did not ask who she was. Humans gave her shelter, food, warmth, and care. They treated her as a person, not royalty. For the first time, she felt free. She lived among them, learned their language, their simple ways, their strange kindness. When humans discovered her condition, they did not call it hopeless. They did not turn away. They simply tried to help. Human doctors used basic medicine, old methods mixed with patience. They said the condition was not permanent, only misunderstood. The Empress clenched her fists. Alien science had failed where humans succeeded. Her empire, so advanced, had been wrong. The thought burned deeply. The woman continued. She spoke of meeting a human man, not a warrior, not a leader, just someone kind. She spoke of love, a word rarely spoken in the Empire. She spoke of fear when she became pregnant, fear and hope together. The Empress felt her chest tighten. Pregnant. That single word shattered centuries of belief. The impossible had already happened. The children shifted beside their mother, listening quietly. Their presence felt heavy, like living proof of every mistake. The woman said she wanted to return, not for power, not for revenge, but for truth. She wanted her children to know who they were, where they came from, and who their grandmother was, even if she was rejected. The Empress looked at the children again. Their faces were human, but something else was there. Something familiar. Royal scientists whispered behind her. They argued softly. Some demanded the children be removed. Others feared what they represented. Suddenly, alarms echoed quietly through the chamber. Not loud, but urgent. A distant signal detected beyond the outer systems. An unknown fleet had noticed. The royal DNA signal. The children were no longer a secret. The Empire's enemies were watching. The Empress realized time was running out. She looked at her daughter, truly looked at her, not as an heir, not as a failure, but as a mother who survived, who built a life without the Empire. The Empress felt something she had long denied. Regret. The daughter met her gaze. No anger, no hatred, only caution. The Empress turned to the guards. She ordered the chamber sealed. No messages out, no ships allowed to leave. This was no longer a political issue. This was personal, and the galaxy would soon feel the weight of that truth. Far beyond the palace walls, dark ships adjusted their course. Drawn by the signal of royal blood, the hunt had begun. The chamber doors sealed with a deep metallic sound. The outside galaxy was cut off. Inside the throne room, all eyes were on the children. They stood close to their mother. One held her left hand, the other her right. Their grip was tight, but their faces were calm. The alien Empress remained still. Her mind raced faster than any starship. She had faced wars and rebellions, but this moment frightened her more than any enemy. The children looked around with open curiosity. They saw glowing walls, tall guards, strange machines, but they did not cry. They did not hide. One of the children whispered to the other, their voice soft and full of wonder. They asked if this place was a castle. The sound echoed gently through the hall. Several guards shifted uneasily. These children were not acting as expected. Royal offspring were trained to fear power, but these children felt no fear at all. The Empress raised her hand slowly. She signaled the royal scientists. Her voice was quiet but firm. She ordered a full biological scan. Floating scanners moved forward. Lights passed over the children's bodies. Symbols and data streams filled the air. The machines worked in total silence. At first, the results were normal. Human biology, human structure. Some guards relaxed slightly, but then the scanners paused. The lights flickered. The data streams froze. A sharp warning tone sounded once, then stopped. Scientists stared at the readings in disbelief. One scientist stepped back, his voice trembling. He said the scanners were detecting royal markers, ancient genetic codes tied only to the Empress. Another scientist argued, calling it an error. He demanded a second scan. The machines restarted. This time the data appeared faster, clearer, stronger. The truth could no longer be denied. Alien royal DNA was present, mixed with human DNA, perfectly stable, perfectly alive. The chamber filled with stunned silence. The Empress felt the world tilt. Her legs weakened. She reached for the throne but stopped herself. An Empress did not fall. She walked closer, each step heavy. She stood before the children. Towering over them, the children looked up at her, not with fear, but with curiosity and something else, recognition. As if they sensed something familiar, something they could not name. The smaller child smiled again. The Empress had not seen such a smile in centuries. It was warm, untrained, real. She asked their names, her voice low and careful. The children answered together, clear and confident. Their names echoed through the hall, simple human names, yet they carried royal blood, a truth that felt unreal. One child asked a question. They asked why everyone was staring. They asked if they were in trouble. The mother knelt quickly beside them. She told them they were safe. She told them everything was fine. But her eyes watched the Empress carefully, ready to protect them at any cost. The Empress noticed this. She saw not weakness, but strength. A strength her empire never taught. A scientist finally spoke again, his voice barely steady. He confirmed the results were real. The children were heirs. That single word shook the room. Heirs meant succession. Heirs meant power. Heirs meant danger. Several advisors whispered urgently. They spoke of tradition, of laws that forbade mixed bloodlines, of threats that would rise. The Empress raised her hand once more. Silence returned instantly. Her eyes never left the children. Her voice was cold again. She declared the scans classified. No data to be shared. Anyone who spoke without command would be punished. The guards bowed in understanding. The children sensed the tension. One stepped forward slightly. They asked the Empress a simple question. They asked if she was angry. The question struck deeper than any insult. The Empress paused. Her answer came slowly. She said she was not angry. She said she was surprised. The child nodded. As if that explanation was enough. As if empires and bloodlines meant nothing. Deep within the palace, a hidden system activated quietly. A long-range alert moved through space, unnoticed by most. Far away, unknown forces received the signal. A signal they had waited for. Royal blood had been confirmed, and it was unprotected. Back in the throne room, the Empress looked at her daughter, at the children, at the future she thought was lost. She realized something terrifying. These children were not just family. They were targets, and the galaxy would not forgive their existence. As the palace lights dimmed slightly, the Empress made a silent vow. If the universe wanted her grandchildren, it would have to face her first. The Empress ordered everyone, except a few trusted scientists, to leave the chamber. The massive doors closed again, sealing the truth inside. Only the Empress, her daughter, the children, and the Science Council remained. The air felt heavy, not with fear alone, but with shame, the kind that comes when truth arrives too late. The Empress turned slowly toward her daughter. Her voice was calm, but quieter than before. She asked one question. She asked how this was possible. The daughter took a deep breath. She had waited years for this moment. She said the Empire had been wrong, not cruel on purpose, but blind. She explained the diagnosis given long ago. Alien doctors believed her condition was permanent. They saw damaged pathways and stopped searching. They never considered recovery human. Doctors did not see it that way. They saw imbalance, not failure. They said the body sometimes only needed time and care, not judgment. The scientists listening felt uneasy. Human medicine was primitive compared to theirs. No nano-swarms, no quantum repair fields, just observation and patience. The daughter explained how humans treated her. They adjusted diet. They used simple chemical medicine. They monitored instead of declaring an end. Over time, her body changed, slowly, quietly, no dramatic moment, just healing. The Empress felt anger rise, not at her daughter, but at her empire, at herself. She demanded to know why alien medicine failed. One senior scientist stepped forward, his voice low. He admitted the truth. Alien medicine focused on speed and certainty. If something did not work immediately, it was labeled impossible. They did not wait. They did not hope. Humans waited, humans hoped, humans treated the person, not just the problem. That difference had changed history. The children listened quietly. They did not understand every word, but they understood the feeling. They moved closer to their mother. One child asked if their mother had been sick. The daughter smiled gently and said she was better now. The child nodded, satisfied. As if that was all that mattered, the Empress watched this exchange. She realized something painful. Her empire had cured bodies, but humans cured lives. A younger scientist activated a display. He showed old medical scans from the empire, then compared them with human records. The difference was undeniable. The condition was temporary, triggered by stress and chemical imbalance, worsened by emotional isolation, something alien science never measured. The Empress felt the weight of her throne. Her decisions had pushed her daughter away. Her pride had sealed the mistake, and time had done the rest. She looked at her daughter and spoke softly. She admitted the empire failed her. The words felt strange, and Empress rarely admitted fault. The daughter did not respond immediately. Her eyes filled slightly, but she remained steady. Years among humans had taught her restraint. She said she did not return for apology. She returned for truth and safety. The children deserved to know where they came from, and to survive what was coming. That last sentence drew attention. A senior guard reported updated readings. Enemy signals were growing stronger. They were triangulating the palace location. The Empress turned back to the scientists. She ordered a complete review of alien medical doctrine. Human methods would be studied, not mocked. The empire would learn. This shocked the council. To learn from humans was unthinkable before. But now, reality stood in front of them, alive and undeniable. The Empress approached the children again. She knelt slightly, not fully, a gesture no ruler had ever seen from her. She asked if they were afraid. One child shook their head. They said their mother always said fear was useful, but only when it protected others. The words struck deeply. The Empress felt something break open inside her. Not weakness, but understanding. Humans had taught her daughter something powerful. Outside the sealed chamber, enemy fleets moved closer, drawn by royal blood and opportunity. The galaxy was preparing to test this fragile truth. The Empress straightened. Her voice regained its strength, but it carried something new now, purpose beyond power. She declared that the children would be protected, not hidden, not erased, protected openly, because the truth about sterility was no longer medical. It was political, it was emotional, and it was dangerous. As warning lights flickered softly across the palace walls, the Empress understood one final thing. The Empire's greatest failure had become its greatest hope, and hope always came with a cost. The warning lights grew brighter across the palace walls. Soft alarms pulsed like a distant heartbeat. The Empress stood tall at the center of the chamber. Her eyes sharp, her mind clear. She no longer questioned the truth. The children were real. Their blood was royal, and the galaxy would not ignore that fact. A senior commander stepped forward. He bowed deeply before speaking. He reported multiple fleets, moving at high speed. They belonged to rival powers. These enemies had waited for centuries, waiting for a weakness in the royal line, waiting for proof that the Empress could fall. Now they had it. The children were not just family. They were symbols that could unite the empire, or destroy it. Some advisors spoke quickly. They demanded the children be hidden, taken to a secure vault world, erased from all records. Others suggested something darker. They spoke of ending the threat permanently. They avoided looking at the children as they spoke. Their silence said enough. The daughter stepped forward instantly, her voice calm but strong. She said her children would not be sacrificed. Not again. She reminded them of Earth, of how humans protect their young, no matter the cost, No matter the odds, the Empress raised her hand. The chamber fell silent. Her voice carried authority, but also something protective. She declared that the children would not be hidden. Hiding meant fear. Fear meant weakness, and weakness invited attack. The advisors reacted with shock. Open protection was dangerous. It meant open war. It meant choosing family over safety. The Empress turned to the children. She asked them one question. She asked if they trusted their mother. They answered without hesitation, yes. The word was simple, but it carried weight. It carried belief. That trust echoed through the chamber. Even hardened commanders felt it. Humans built strength differently, through connection, not fear. A new alert sounded, closer this time. Enemy scouts had crossed the outer boundary. They were testing defenses. The Empress ordered the palace shields raised, not to hide, but to show readiness, a signal to the galaxy. She then did something unexpected. She turned to the human children again, and spoke plainly. She told them danger was coming. She did not lie. She did not soften the truth. She said some would want to harm them, because of who they were. One child asked if they had done something wrong. The Empress answered honestly. She said, no. The universe was wrong, not them. The daughter watched closely. She saw a ruler learning how to speak to children, not as tools, but as lives. Human advisors who traveled with the family spoke next. They offered help, not fleets, not superweapons. Offered strategy, information sharing, public truth. Things humans valued more than force. They warned that enemies feared exposure, feared unity, feared losing control of the story. Humans knew how to use that fear. The Empress listened, really listened. This was new for her, to accept help without dominance. Another report arrived. Enemy transmissions were leaking into public channels. They were spreading lies, calling the children abominations. The Empress felt anger rise, not cold anger, but burning rage, the kind that demands action. She ordered a galaxy wide broadcast prepared, not yet released, but ready. Timing would matter. The daughter placed a hand on her arm. A gentle but firm touch. She said rushing would cost lives. Humans survived by patience. The Empress nodded slowly. She trusted her daughter. That alone shocked the advisors. Trust had always been rare outside the palace. Stars shifted as fleets aligned. Weapons powered up. The galaxy leaned toward conflict. Inside the chamber, the children sat together on the floor, holding each other's hands, unaware of how many worlds were watching them now. The Empress looked down at them and understood the true threat. It was not enemy fleets. It was repeating the mistakes of the past. She made a silent promise. The Empire would not break them. Fear would not rule this choice. History would not repeat itself. As enemy ships entered visible range and alarms reached their highest level, the Empress turned toward the stars, ready to defend not just a throne, but a future. The enemy fleets stopped just outside firing range. They filled the darkness like a wall of metal. Thousands of ships, silent and waiting. The galaxy was holding its breath. Inside the palace, there was no panic, only focused movement. Commanders waited for orders. Weapons stood ready but unused. The Empress did not give the command to attack. Instead, she turned away from the battle screens. She looked at the humans in the room and asked one simple question. How do humans fight without destroying everything? The human advisor stepped forward. He spoke carefully. He said humans fight stories before they fight wars. They expose lies. He explained that enemy empires survive on fear, on control of information, on keeping their people blind. Truth was more dangerous than weapons. The Empress considered this. Her empire ruled through strength. But strength had limits. Fear always created rebellion. She ordered all incoming enemy transmissions opened. No blocking, no filtering. Let the lies come. Screens filled with enemy messages. They called the children impure. They called the Empress weak. They promised chaos if the heirs lived. The children were brought into a safe viewing room. Not hidden, just protected. They watched quietly. One child asked why the enemies were angry. The daughter answered softly. She said angry people are often afraid. The child nodded. The Empress turned back to the advisors. She made a bold decision. She ordered the galaxy-wide broadcast activated. Now, every screen across allied systems lit up. Merchant ships, civilian stations, border. Worlds, the Empress appeared live, not armored, not distant, but standing beside her daughter and grandchildren. She spoke plainly. She admitted the Empire made a mistake. She admitted alien medicine failed. She admitted humans succeeded. Gasps spread across the network. An Empress admitting fault was unheard of. Enemy leaders panicked. This was not expected. She continued. She explained who the children were. Not weapons, not symbols, family, hope, proof that the future could change. The human advisor then spoke. He shared medical data openly. Human treatments, simple methods, worlds watching, realized something shocking. The powerful empire was not perfect, and humans were not weak. They were patient. Enemy propaganda began to break. Their lies could not survive open truth. Their own citizens started asking questions. Their unity cracked inside the enemy fleets. Commanders argued. Orders conflicted. Fear replaced confidence. The Empress did not smile. This was not victory yet. She watched carefully, waiting. One enemy fleet powered weapons. Suddenly, a desperate move. But before they fired, their own support ships pulled back. Internal rebellion had begun. Messages flooded public channels. Citizens demanded answers. Soldiers refused orders. The battle never became physical. No lasers fired. No planets burned. Minds were already defeated. The children watched the screens, seeing ships retreat, seeing people argue instead of fight. One child asked if the danger was over. The Empress answered honestly. She said not yet, but it was changing, because fear was losing. One by one, enemy fleets withdrew. Some jumped to hyperspace. Others surrendered communications control. The threat collapsed from within. Silence returned to the stars, not the silence of fear, but the silence after understanding, after choice. The Empress felt something new settle inside her. Not dominance, but respect. Humans had changed the rules of power. She looked at her daughter, and then at the children. This future would not be ruled by force alone. It would be guided by truth. But even as victory seemed near, deep in uncharted space, a final signal was sent, not of attack, but of warning. The galaxy was learning, and learning always threatened old empires. The enemy fleets were gone. The stars outside the palace returned to quiet motion. No alarms echoed anymore. The empire had survived without firing a single shot inside the throne room. The atmosphere felt different, not tense, not fearful, but uncertain in a new way. The Empress stood before the gathered council. Advisors, commanders, scientists, all waited for her final decision. A decision that would shape the future of the galaxy. The children stood beside their mother, holding hands, tired but calm, unaware of how powerful their presence truly was. The Empress looked at them for a long moment. She remembered the empire she built. Strong, cold, unchanging. An empire that feared weakness more than injustice. She then remembered the battle that never happened. How truth broke fleets. How honesty shattered lies. Humans fought without destruction. The Empress turned to the council. Her voice carried through the chamber, clear and steady. She announced a change in imperial law. Gasps filled the room. Imperial law had not changed in centuries. It was considered perfect, untouchable. She declared that bloodline purity laws were abolished, mixed. Blood was no longer forbidden. Strength would be measured by character, not genetics. The council erupted into whispers, some in shock, some in fear, some in quiet relief. Then the Empress did something no one expected. She stepped down from the throne, not permanently, but symbolically. She knelt before the children, not as a ruler, but as a grandmother. The room fell completely silent. She placed her hand gently over her chest and named the children heirs to the empire, not rulers of war, but guardians of a new future. The daughter felt tears rise, not from victory, but from healing. A wound centuries deep finally closing. The children looked confused. They did not understand titles or power. One asked if this meant they had to leave Earth. The Empress smiled softly. She said no. They would choose their own path. The empire would learn from them, not control them. Human representatives were officially welcomed, not as visitors, but as equals. A moment recorded across the galaxy. Worlds watching felt something shift. An empire admitting change. An empress choosing family over fear. History was being rewritten. The Empress turned to her daughter. She apologized openly, not in private, but before the Empire. She admitted pride blinded her, that power made her forget care, that losing her daughter was her greatest failure. The daughter accepted the apology quietly. No loud words, no celebration, just understanding. Sometimes that was stronger than forgiveness. The children were led to a balcony. They looked out at the stars, thousands of worlds shining softly, a future wide and unknown. The Empress joined them, standing, not above, but beside them, learning instead of ruling. She understood now. The future would not belong to the strongest species or the most advanced technology, but to those who could change. The new bloodline was not alien and not human alone. It was shared, balanced. As the palace lights dimmed into night mode and stars continued their endless motion, the Empire entered a new age, not built on fear, but on family. And far across the galaxy, one truth became clear. The future was no longer cold.